Hello geometry students. Today's lesson is about dilations and scale factor. So the learning target is to understand scale factor. Back in the first unit we talked about a dilation, and I'm going to highlight that in yellow. A dilation is a transformation that changes the size of the figure but not its shape. What I mean by that is the angles are all going to be preserved and the sides are going to be proportional, and we'll discuss that in a little bit. So a new definition. A scale factor describes how much a shape is enlarged or reduced. If the scale factor of a dilation is greater than 1, then we say that is an enlargement, which means the picture gets bigger. In contrast, if the scale factor is less than 1, we say that is a reduction, which means the picture gets smaller. So let's take a look at the first example. The first example says, what is the scale factor from triangle A to triangle B? So from A to B, the first thing to notice here is this is getting smaller, which means it is a reduction. In contrast, if we look at problem number 3, it says from triangle B to A. So from B to A, this picture is getting larger, which means it is a enlargement. Let's go back to number 1. The goal of number 1 is to find the scale factor. So we're going to look at the sides of the triangle. I got 9.75 and 6.5 here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide those two numbers. 9.75 over 6.5. And I'm going to show you how to do this on the TI-84. I'll also show you how to do it on the Desmos calculator. So on the TI-84, we're going to type 9.75 divide by 6.5, and when you hit enter you get 1.5. Now the calculator has a nice feature called the fraction button. So on the left hand side, I just highlighted in red, press math, then press number 1 for fraction and hit enter, and it'll convert 1.5 into a fraction. If you have the Desmos scientific calculator, same idea, 9.75 divide by 6.5. Now notice over on the right hand side you have this little button that says convert to fraction. If you press that, it'll convert that decimal to a fraction, 3/2. So 9.75 is equal to 1.5 or 3/2. Now the picture is getting smaller, so the scale factor must be less than 1 because it is a reduction. So what that means is we need to divide the other way. We want the smaller number on top, or the numerator, so we're going to do 6.5 over 9.75. And I'll go back to the TI. 6.5 divide by 9.75. I get 0.6 repeating, and if I press math, number 1 for fraction, and hit enter, I'll get 2/3. On the Desmos calculator, I can type 6.5, divide by 9.75, press the little fraction button there, and notice you get 2/3. So 6.5 over 9.75 is 2/3, or 0.6 repeating. So the scale factor for this problem, since it is a reduction, that scale factor must be less than 1, so it is 2/3. Now, what if you use the 27.15 and the 18.1? Just to show you really quickly, if I use those numbers, again, I want the 18.1 in the numerator, divide by 27.15, and I'm going to press math, fraction. Notice I get the same answer. If for some reason I use this side, again I want the smaller number on top because it is a reduction. So 17.7, and I'm going to divide that by, I need to go back to the screen there, I'm going to divide that by 26.55 and hit enter. Math, fraction, notice I get 2/3. So it doesn't matter which side you use, the proportions are identical, so you get to choose. Let's take a look at problem number 3. Since this is an enlargement, I'm going to want the larger number on top. And again, as I said, it doesn't matter which side you use. I'm just going to use the 17.25 and the 2.3. So to figure out the scale factor, I'm going to go 17.25 divide by 2.3. Because it's an enlargement, I want the larger number in the numerator. And then on the calculator, this time I'll use the Desmos calculator, 17.25 divide by 2.3, excuse me, is 7.5. You can leave it as 7.5, but if you want the fraction, it's 15/2. So the scale factor, so that was 15/2 or 7.5. So the scale factor is 7.5. On the standardized tests, you might see a fraction, so 15/2. Let's take a look at problem 3. Let's take a look at example 2 and 4. This time we have rectangles. So for number 2, I want to go from rectangle B to rectangle A. So from B to A. So that means I'm getting larger, which means it is an enlargement. So to find the scale factor, I want the larger number in the numerator. So I'll say 61.76 over 19.3. So I'm going to take the sides that are in the same spot. I could have used the 48.32 divided by the 15.1. So using my calculator, I'm going to type that in, 61.76 divide by 19.3. And when I do that, I get 3.2. I'll press math, fraction, and you get 16/5. So this is equal to 3.2 or 16/5. So the scale factor is 16/5. In problem number 4, we want to go from rectangle A to rectangle B. So from A to B, this is a reduction, meaning it's getting smaller. So I want the smaller number in the numerator. So I'm going to say 11.2 divide by the 84. So 11.2 divide by 84. Using my calculator, 11.2 divided by 84, you get 2/15. And if you wanted the decimal, it's 0.13 repeating, but I tend to say the scale factor is 2/15. So the first part of the learning target is to identify the scale factor. Remember, if it's getting larger, the scale factor must be larger than 1. If this picture is getting smaller, the scale factor must be smaller than 1.